you react. I know with my partner, I'm the type that, if I've got something to talk about, discuss it, I can do it right now, right here. And sometimes I learned at the beginning, my partner, if it was a big issue, he actually needed to sleep on it. He literally needed an overnight, and we weren't living together at the time, so it was fine. It's like, okay, check in with me in the morning. And he would, and we would talk about it. And after a while, that overnight was like, can you give me a few hours? And now it's like we're so used to each other, we can literally pick up a topic and talk about it. Sometimes he will still initially get defensive, so I have to just say to myself, or actually one of the things I say to him when I run something by him, I'm like, don't tell me your first three thoughts, because they're usually judgmental and why we shouldn't do it. And then he'll get to being able to communicate about it. And I used to get frustrated, and now I just laugh about it because he is who he is, and that's the other thing. It's like when someone shows you who they are, believe them. The other biggest thing I think that is really what happens is unmet expectations. We all have these quiet, hidden expectations. And it's like that. How am I supposed to know what you want to eat if you don't tell me what you like or don't like? The same thing when I come home in the evening, I personally have, I need to like decompress, put the kettle on for a cup of tea. Sometimes I take a bath. There's different ways that I want to decompress. And I don't have little young kids in the house, so it's very easy for me to do that. My partner loves to get up in the morning. He needs a coffee and he needs his shower, and then he's up for a conversation. Prior to that, I just let him be. Having said that, if I needed to have a conversation with him about something during that time, I will ask him. I say, I know, honey, you usually don't like to get into something deep right now, but can we? And again, it's about knowing your partner, respecting them, and then being able to say, can I, have 10 minutes today? And if it's not a good time, can we talk later on tonight? A lot of times when I was more immature, I would want to walk through the door and just have at it. And I would be bringing all my frustration with me, maybe the 5 last arguments with me if they weren't resolved. And sometimes you're bringing your old relationship into it. If you really haven't, if you've got unfinished business, a lot of the times they're going to pay the price. The other thing I always say to people that are newly dating, I'm like, find out if your partner had a good relationship with their parents. I think it's very important, if a woman dates a guy, that the guy had a good relationship with his mom. And if a woman is with the guy, hopefully the guy had a good relationship with his mom, or vice versa, if you know what I mean. Because that's going to be very telling. If the
No.
relationship is very enmeshed, go ahead.
Okay, concept of when you, I mean, I'm just picking up one word out of this discussions. You said unfinished business. What's this?
Yes. Unemotional finished business. So let's say you were married for 5, 6, 10, 12 years, whatever the case may be, and that ended, but it never was really ended emotionally. Like people think, well, we're separated, we didn't, we're not working out, we're done, we're divorced. You might be divorced financially, you might have stopped talking 4 years ago, but if you have not dealt with the reason why that relationship fell apart, what was your part? What was it about you that did not, was not able to be involved? Was it your jealousy? Was it whatever it is? Knowing what that is, if that's not dealt with, you're bringing that emotional baggage into the next relationship. It's like your childhood baggage. If you have unhealed pain, trauma, whatever in your childhood that doesn't get resolved, you're walking around with a lot of luggage, and you're bringing that luggage with you. You're not even aware of it a lot of the times. But imagine walking around with like 7 or 8 knapsacks, and everywhere you go, you're bringing it with you and you don't even realize it. Instead of just opening up that suitcase, going through it, see what doesn't fit anymore, like clothes. If it doesn't fit, get rid of it. You need to replace it, do. And this would be about thoughts. Let's say you find a woman that's very, very attractive, but you can't trust her. And now your jealousy is up, and it's like that can become very, very painful. And then you just kind of get rid of that. And then you never really deal with what that jealousy is about, what the insecurity is, what your fear is. You're afraid they're going to abandon you. Well, where does that come from? It really is, it's like doing an autopsy on your relationship. And that's really important to do before you get into another relationship. And I think my partner did that for the first time. It's like he wanted out of the first marriage and he kind of got into the second one relatively soon and started a whole other thing. And then he got an opportunity to feel what that felt like because his second wife wanted to leave him. And to me, it was a blessing because he was able to learn the pain that he may have caused the first time because of the pain he felt the second time. And luckily, he was quite a few, he's a few years divorced by the time I met him and had really spent a lot of time on his own. So he was much more available. And plus, because of all the work I had done, I would know what was our pain and what was that's got nothing to do with me. I remember being with people in the past when they were extremely angry at different times. And I remember thinking, I know I didn't cause this one. So rather than me getting angry at their anger, I would just sit and hold space because I knew it wasn't me, only because of the work I'd done. So being really aware of your triggers, knowing what you cause, because people trigger each other all the time. And it's very, very important. And if two unhealed people come together, that can be a real nightmare. I mean, it leads to death sometime, unfortunately. Jealousy and obsession. If I can't have you, no one can. That is all unhealed pain that people don't realize. And there's a lot of people that don't want to be alone, so they just get married again.
Okay, and is that that defines the unfinished business? And how about the effective communication? When a woman saying something to a man and
Yeah.
like, I mean, sender processing and receiving and then feedback. So
Yes. So
where is that communication or ineffective communication
sure.
failing these relationships, and why this institution of relationship is getting scarce instead of being abundant even today?
Yeah, no, I that's a great question. And one of the things when I talk about this, I always say I am so glad I'm a woman because I don't have to understand them. We're pretty complicated creatures. We can have a thousand thoughts at the same time. There's a wonderful short YouTube video there about men's brains versus women's brains. And it's I forget which doctor is talking about it, but it's so on point and everyone laughs and they're laughing because they can relate to it. But it's like when someone comes home after a long day of work or whatever the case may be, she's exhausted, she's tired, she might just want to be heard. She'll come through the door, she'll vent, and she really wants to be heard about how she feels, even though she may not be talking about her feelings. She might be talking about the boss, she might be talking about the traffic or whatever the case may be. And a lot of times the partner is hearing exactly the words they're saying. So they're responding to the words that's being spoken. Oh, your boss is a jerk. I can't believe, why don't you quit that job? Meanwhile, the wife might think, I love the job. I don't want to quit. I just want to vent. Whereas the guy wants to fix it. And the woman is thinking it's not broken. So now instead of her feeling closer to the partner, now she's like, he doesn't even understand me. Meanwhile, the guy is thinking, I heard every word you said, and they could recite it. But what's really important, and it's like it's the woman's job to teach her partner, and it's the guy's job to teach his partner. And when I say teach them, it's teaching them about how they feel heard, how they feel. I'm able to translate it now. So I don't need my partner to say everything word for word. I can translate it in my mind because I understand it. There was a friend of mine one time. It was after my dad had passed away, and I hadn't seen this guy in quite a while. And this is how he was like in his 70s, wonderful guy. But this is how he what he said when he saw me. "Hey, you look like shit. Where the hell have you been?" And I was like, "I miss and love you too," but it's like instead of the guy saying, "Oh my God, I haven't seen you in so long and I miss you," they have like their own language. And I'm not just talking about, you know, different language, but we do really have a different language. And I think it's important for us to understand one another's language. Because one of the things I hear a lot of guys saying, "I don't know what the hell is wrong with her. I give her this, I got her this, I bought her this, I did this, blah, blah, blah." And and meanwhile, the women are like, "He doesn't understand what I'm saying. Yeah, he went and bought me a dress. I didn't even want it. And he went and got me this and I didn't want it." It's like and these are people that I'm working with. I love working with couples because it really gives me an opportunity to help them hear one another because they're not hearing one another. Even the way they respond to one another. I'm like, what do you think he just said? And she will come back and I'm like, huh, I'm not even I mean, I understand how she heard what she heard. But it's like it's fascinating. It's fascinating. It's another language, but you need to learn about yourself first and then teach the other person. Just like I said earlier, when I don't feel good, I want to be left alone. You know, if I'm hungry, I'd like some food. It's like it's knowing yourself. Sometimes if something emotional is going on for me, I'd sooner not talk about it right away and maybe go for a walk and spend some time on my own. Someone else might need a hug. They might need to not be alone. They might need someone to stay with them. There's no right or wrong, but it's knowing how you're wired. And a lot of times we're operating from a place, like I said, of lack of it from our childhood. And we don't know how to receive and we don't know how to give. And that's a whole other layer. So that's a lot of people are walking around with a lot of unhealed baggage. I think when I grew up in Ireland, but I was saying, when I first started my recovery, I think I had more luggage than Logan Airport. It was like filled with shame and guilt and remorse and all of this. And I decided and I made a commitment that I'm going to go through this and just find the freedom behind all of this crap that I'm carrying. And when I talk about crap that I'm carrying, it's literally between my ears. It's 6 inches between my ears. That's where it all gets processed. I don't literally have luggage, but it feels like I do. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, yeah, it does. I mean, but still, can you give us some instances where man is saying one thing and woman's understanding other, and woman saying one thing and man understanding not the exact as you use the word languages. And for sure, I understand that this is emotional language, or like it's a, we take everything logical as being man, whereas I mean you are like you're all made up of emotions and you want the emotional response, instead you are getting logical. So would you like throw a little more light on this?
Sure. Let me just see if I can. So let's say a guy comes home from an evening out with the guys, and there's and he wants to play golf for an outing or a tournament that weekend. So he comes home and he says to his wife, "Hey, honey, I'm going to be playing 36 holes this weekend." Hearing it like that would probably not go over as well if he was to say, "Oh, honey, I have this great opportunity. I know you want me to go to your mom's on Saturday, but I really would love this opportunity to blah 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 and play golf, and here we can do dinner and stuff afterwards." So it's about taking the other person into consider. These are two different ways of communicating, really. It's about taking the other person's feelings and thoughts into consideration and not be selfish. She could easily translate that from the first part. If he just came home and said, "Hey, I'm playing 36 holes this weekend," she could come home, "You don't care about me. I can't believe you're out playing golf. You prefer to be playing golf than with me." That is so not the truth either, but it's how she feels. So now she might be resentful because she's walking around thinking he'd prefer to play golf than be with me. He'd prefer to be with the guys but be with me, which is not necessarily the truth. I think guys need guy time. They have their own way of loading up their tank, filling up their fuel, and spending time together. One wife might say, "Oh, honey, I'm so happy for you. Go enjoy yourself. We'll see you later." That's an evolved person that can, that can say, "Honey, I know you love to do that. I'm so glad Johnny's in town and you can spend some time with him. Let's make some time during the week to do whatever." It's again about being considerate of the other person. But the part a lot of times that gets really sticky and complicated is if the woman wants to confront the guy about something. Let's say he wants his laundry done, but he never puts his clothes in the laundry. He might not even put them in the basket, or he might put them in the basket or next to the basket, or whatever the case may be, or he puts them in the basket. She complains, he's looking for his clean clothes or whatever. And he says, "Well, I put him in the basket 2 days ago, honey. I thought you might have time to do the laundry." And if she's resentful from something prior to that, she may feel used. "What do you think? I'm just your housewife?" Totally interpreting the laundry as something personal. There was a couple one time that I remember working with, and she her job, like, they had decided that her job was inside the house and his job was outside the house. And I actually have two great examples of this. So there was one afternoon, or one, I think it was like during maybe the winter. She wanted him to put out the garbage, like, from the kitchen, but she didn't say to him. But she was thinking, "Why doesn't he help me around the house?" This is all going on in her own mind. Did not say to him, "Honey, it'd be really helpful if you just grab the trash in the morning as you're walking out. It's kind of heavy, it's slippery out." But she didn't say that. So his thing was his work is outside, hers is inside. Then she started telling me, "Well, I even took it out of the trash barrel and left it by the door." And he would still walk out every morning, not see the trash because that wasn't his job in his mind. He just wouldn't see it. He was not thinking, "I'm going to ignore this bag of trash here just so my wife can be feeling the way she." Meanwhile, she is personalizing it. She's like, "I can't believe I put the trash there. Why couldn't he pick it up? Why couldn't he care for me and pick up the trash?" Meanwhile, he's thinking it's a bag of trash. It's got nothing to do with you. But in her mind, reads and feels actions. The exact same couple, it was in the fall. Again, he was raking leaves outside. She was inside. She was going to go to the gym, but she didn't feel like it. Instead, she's thinking to herself, "I'm going to go help my husband rake the leaves." So she goes outside, starts making piles of leaves on the yard, thinking she's helping him. Meanwhile, he's thinking, "What the hell are you doing? I'm trying to mow the lawn and you're putting all these leaves in my way." No communication. When What they should have done, for him to say, "Honey, if you need any help anytime in the kid," because I think a baby was now born or something. There was some kind of a shift that happened. But it would have been kind of nice if he would have said, "Hey, honey, if you need any extra help in the kitchen, let me know." Simple thing. That's how she felt cared for. I learned that after 2 sessions. He was with her for 6 years and didn't know it. Again, he's outside doing whatever he needed to do with the leaves. She should have said, "Hey, honey, I'd like to help. How can I help?" And he might say, "Go to the back of the house and pick up the leaves there. I've got a plan here with the front of the house." But she didn't ask him. So she just did what she thought would be helpful. Meanwhile, it just irked him because he's like, "What the hell are you doing?" So instead of it being getting closer, they ended up having an argument because of the lack of communication. And it really is, I've always said this to people, like, almost every year, whether let's say you met at Christmas, make Christmas be a time, or you made in January, February, whatever. Check in with each other annually or even quarterly at the beginning. Are your needs being met? What is it about, what is it I do that makes you feel loved? What is it I don't do that doesn't make you, that makes you feel, learn how you are showing up, because you can be so in your own mind doing, like my Steve is in his mind a lot because he works weekends, he works during the week, and I totally get it. He's got a plan. I support it, but I also need to make plans with him, ahead of time. It's like, "Hey, hon, I'd love if we could go to Block Island on this day. Can we can you leave your computer at home?" So that way he knows, okay, it's just gonna be he and I. But I know ahead of time. I'm not gonna just wake up in the morning and say, "Hey, well, I want us to do this today." Because it's like I know he's got plans. So I'm being respectful of where he's at, what he's doing, and he does the same for me. I love going out doing photography. He's never once said to me, "Hey, you care more about the camera than me," or "You like shooting those owls. What about me?" It's not. He's just so happy. He goes, "Have a wonderful day. Can't wait to see what you photograph." It really is about being best friends and caring about the other person. But if I had old resentful thoughts towards some guy who didn't do or do, I would be triggered by what Steve says and doesn't say, and then I'd be responding and reacting from my trigger, not from what he says or not says. It's like so many guys, they're so funny. They'll be like, "I do this," and I even my dad used to say it. "I do this for your mother, I do that for her, I do this, and she won't," whatever the won't be. And meanwhile, it's like we expect people to read our minds. Do not expect your partner to read your mind, whether you're male or female, and don't assume you know what your partner wants. Ask them. Does that make sense?
Time, like I mean, we like my age fellows who are 48 already. Now, our kids are, of the age that we'll be looking forward for their marriages, like in 3 to 5 years from now. So what's, I mean, still, I mean, there are like myself, we are ourselves, we are not settled so far. So, I mean, how, what's about your ourselves and how about the kids? Your advice on
Say
for
say
us,
that
like my
again.
generation.
Say that again. I'm missing the question there. I know it was something about kids and you. You talking about your relationship with the kids?
Yeah, I mean, there are like there are people in our community. They're like I mean around 50, like I mean close to 50, and they are still not settled with their spouses. And I mean their kids are to be married in 3 to 5 years from now. So this is complex situation. What's your advice, on this situation? You're froze. Hello, you there?
Hi.
Did you
Yes.
get my question, or I do repeat again?
Just give me the question part, like the I know you said something about 50-year-olds, and then you talked about kids getting married in 3 or 4
Okay,
years,
I,
but I
there are
still missed the question.
okay. There are two aspects of this question. One is like those who are around 50 or close to 50, and their own
Yep.
marriages are not settled. Their own relationships are still not settled. At the
Yes.
same time, the kids are also grown up.
Okay.
So, and they do have the impact, as you said earlier. And how to cope up with the situation? What's your advice to the parents and to the kids, and again for their relationships for the future of their kids?
Well, I think the greatest gift that any parent can give their child from the day they're born is a present parent, someone who is present, not someone that's like, "Go away, I can't talk to you now." Good, so all of that starts from the get go. There's nothing nicer or more important than when a child runs into a room, the smile on your face is what makes them feel so special and so alive and so energetic. If they come from a place where they feel loved, respected, nurtured, cared for, they're probably going to be drawn to and attracted to that same kind of a life because it's what they know. Now, if they grew up in a place where they saw their parents be really strict, no affection, stayed together for the kids, they may more than likely be drawn to that. It's like that's the energy you're being drawn to because it's what you know. It's like people that grow up in alcoholic homes. They like, I will never drink. Then you hear down the road they ended up marrying a guy who wasn't drinking a lot at the beginning but became an alcoholic. So it's like unless and until you really can check in with yourself, get plugged in and figure out what you want. And then when you do go out dating or whatever the case may be. I don't know what it's like in your country versus in America or Ireland. Either way, you meet one another, but there's a lot of questions that you need to be asking yourself first and foremost. What do you want? What do you see your future to be? Do you want kids? Some people might want 4 kids, some people might want 2. How do you get on the same page? The other thing I think that's really important is to be on the same page with how you raise kids, and you can even again, the thing is with who the kids have become. Are they emotionally plugged in? Are they, some are very sensitive, some are there's a lot. It's awful hard to give you a black and white answer. Um, but usually after talking to someone for 10 or 15 minutes, or if they're honest with me about what their life is like, it's very easy for me to see what areas that they could be focused on and be able to make some changes between your ears. It's a choice. Like we were talking earlier, it really is a choice every day. I could wake up in the morning and ask myself, what can I do today that would help Steve have a better day? And that might be, because he usually does the grocery shop and I do the cooking, he does the cleaning, blah, 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 or I can ask him what his day is like and just ask him what his day is like. If he's got a busy day, it's like, you know what, I've got some time in between. I can just pick up some food. But it's like, how can I make your life better? Relationships are either contaminating or they're contributing. And how are you showing up? And you can say, well, my wife doesn't do that, so I'm not going to do this. Put a little note in her pocketbook. Hey, I'm thinking about you. Looking forward to seeing you tonight. It's like I grew up in a home where I never heard "I love you." Like, and when I finally did hear it, I'm like, "Are you dying? You're going to die soon?" It's like, but just be present, be kind, and not wait for the other person, because then it's like you're playing this kind of game of like, well, she doesn't do that, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to wait. Lee does that, and she doesn't wait. I do this, and she doesn't. Let them know what you need from a loving place. And the way you do that is to say, I absolutely love when we whatever, rather than I can't believe you haven't done that in years. I really miss the time when we blah blah blah. Like focus on what you want, not what you don't want. And when you start out something, don't ever start with you, because that'll put someone right in the defense. You're never home on time. You're always on the phone. Yeah. Instead of saying, oh, honey, can we have some time this weekend where there's no electronics, no phone, and we can just go for a walk? And it'd be like, you know what, this weekend might not work, but I'll be able to do that on Monday. You negotiate. And maybe you don't particularly want to go for a walk, but they do. And then you go for a walk and you connect. No devices, no nothing. You connect. Go out in nature. Nature is like one of my favorite places to be when the weather is nice. Just being out in nature, birds. I've been watching a family of owls last year, and now I just found them again this year. They have so much to teach. They teach you patience, they teach you protection. It's pretty fascinating. But what have you been teaching your kids, do you think? You need to ask yourself that. I know you have 4 sons. So you can ask yourself, what have I taught the first one, the second one? Because you're a different parent to each one of these people. You're the same guy, same name, but you're a different parent. You were a different parent when the first one was born, and you were a different parent when the fourth one was born. Be aware of that. Who are you as a partner? What is hard about you to live with you? What's the nicest thing about you living with you? Like, know that about yourself, and then know that about your partner. What did they think of me? What do they say about me when I'm not here? And why are they saying what they're saying? To be vulnerable is not always a comfortable place to be, but I think you need to learn to be in that place, to soften, to have a safe place and a soft place to fall at the end of a long day, and not need to have your coat of armor on because you know you're going to get yelled at as soon as you walk through the door, or I'm not going to tell her that because I know what she's going to say. All of that is useless way of communicating. Communicate effectively.
Wow. And one more thing, when you were giving me a session, thank you so much for being abundantly available to me. Thank you so much. And you were talking about the choices. We
Mm.
as men, we make choices, we make decisions everywhere. We buy a dollar or 1,000 or whatever, we like, I mean, buying a coffee to a house or anything. We make decisions, but we, and at the same time we feel and we say, look, I am helpless, I mean, and we can't handle certain emotions. Why is that so?
Say that last piece again.
Like, I mean, we are making decisions all the time, we are making choices. As your teachings tell me that they are leading a happier life and a very stable emotional life, and
Mhm.
loving someone and not loving someone is a decision.
It's a
It's a
choice.
choice.
Yes.
It's a choice.
Yes.
It's not something that that happens. Like, I mean, it's again, I mean, you can create it. So
Yeah.
we as men, we make decisions. I mean, buying coffee to a house, or big deals or small deals, and we are all the time in control. But when it comes
That's
to
external.
emotions, yeah.
Yeah.
But when it
Yeah.
comes to emotions, like, or the relationship handling, or talking to your spouse, or
Mhm.
understanding their emotional patterns, we are all, boom, bogged down, and that's where, I
Yeah,
mean,
so
this is where we fail miserably. Why is that? So
yeah.
what's the solution? What's the missing jigsaw puzzle which completing the picture of the
It's
emotional
about your
relationship?
it's about your own regulating your own emotions. So again, if you grow up, and I have no clue actually what your home was like growing up, but were you allowed to feel your feelings? Were you allowed to express your anger? Were you allowed to cry? Or were you told to stop crying? Or were you told to, were you allowed to have emotions? Like, that's the first thing you need to ask yourself. Again, where I grew up, it was like, stop crying, I'll give you something to cry about. You're fine, go way out of that. It's like my emotions weren't welcomed. And that's a lot to do with the culture I grew up in. And then as I got older, even in my teenage years, I actually found a lot of comfort in alcohol because I really didn't know, I didn't like feelings and I didn't know how to deal with them. And I thought they were all facts, which they're not. And then when I got sober at 22 and I started on this journey that I've been on since, I needed to learn, first of all, what they were. I needed to give them a name. I needed to realize that I'm actually in the driver's seat. I have the ability today to control my own emotions. When I'm in traffic, like Steve and I are very different in traffic. I like to drive because he can get angry at total strangers on the highway. I don't even give them a second thought because I like my peace and quiet. I always find a parking spot. Steve never does. There's always one waiting for me. Might take a few minutes longer, but it's there. I don't want to be in that place of like It's kind of lack of, or I don't want to be thinking I'm not going to get a parking spot here. I like to feel good. One of the other things I find that, people will say, well, I don't want to tell her that because I know what she's going to say. What they're really saying is, I know if I share my truth with my partner, they're going to get upset. And I'm not comfortable with their upset energy because I'm not comfortable with my own emotions. A lot of times men especially, and this is generalizing, so I don't mean to generalize, but men can go to anger pretty comfortably. They're comfortable in that place. And I've experienced, not brutal, but just anger. It's comfortable for them. It's sometimes familiar, and it prevents the vulnerability. And part of me, I think, was more more wired like a guy than the typical female, because I grew up taking care of myself, independent. I got this. I still don't like to be emotional. I still don't like, but I'm appropriately emotional when I need to be, whether it's at a funeral or um but it's really learning how to regulate your own emotions. You know how you see a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old, their emotions are totally out of whack. What they need in that moment is one parent or both to hold space, to stand still. The exact same thing when a couple has to talk about something uncomfortable. And this happens with Steve. I used to confront Steve with something. I'd be upset or angry. He'd get angry. And I'm like, there's no room for both of our anger here right now. Either you're angry or me. Which is it going to be? Now we just laugh about it. But it's still the case. It's like, I will now say something. I'm like, can you hold off on getting angry? I just need to get this out. But it's a matter of one person needing to hold space for the other person's emotions. And that's hard to do if you haven't learned how to be comfortable enough being uncomfortable with your own emotions. And a lot of times men, well, I don't want to see her cry, so I just give it to her. You don't want to see them cry because of what it brings up for you. Crying is a release. Laughing is a release. Did you ever tell anyone, stop laughing? You're having too much fun. But no, you want them to stop crying, or you'll give them tissues or something. I literally, people that sit and cry in front of me, I just literally hold space because I know it's just a release. It's a release of something. And a lot of times they're laughing 10 minutes afterwards. But people are so afraid of, I don't want to see them upset or crying. It's part of being human. And it's like, well, I don't want to bring that up because of blah, blah, blah. So now the guy has made up all of these excuses to himself why he wants to protect his wife. He's not protecting his wife, he's protecting his own inability to feel his own feelings. Does that resonate?
Wow. Yeah, it does. Okay. See, if this is about the physics and chemistry of one's, like, being man, it takes different chemistry, and being woman, it's different one. So, there are a lot of things that, after seeing you and attending your sessions, I really met myself as if I'm meeting myself for the first time in life. There are certain concepts, like, it was like about making decisions and choosing and making choices, and then at the same time feeling vulnerable, or like feeling helpless, and not attending to, my own, vulnerable, emotional side, making more stronger, not on it, but expecting others to do that for me. So that was really amazing learning. So thank you so much for being on my show, and you graced it. And there's lots of value when you speak about relationships, and won't and would request you to please keep featuring on abundance. And since I think we are emotional animal beyond social animal, and I would want you to playing until we make the abundance of relationship and emotional stability. Thank you so much. any message that you would want to give to the planet?
Yes, I will tell you. So I think like let's say the intimate part of a relationship. If a woman feels heard, she is way more apt to want to be with you physically. But she needs to feel heard and cared for and loved. For a woman to feel turned on, it's between her ears. A guy to be turned on, it's somewhere else. So know that. And when you wake up in the morning and you ask your honey, hey, you want some tea or coffee? That's when foreplay starts. It's about feeling cared for, sending her a message throughout the day saying, hey, I'm just thinking of you. Not, hey, make sure you put the trash out. I'll be, just letting the female know you've been thinking about them for no reason, just thinking about them. That's how a female feels cared for. A guy, on the other hand, needs to feel appreciated. So the woman needs to let the guy know that, I really appreciate all you do, what you do, when you do it, the little things, the big things. But if the two of them want to get together, physically, the woman needs to feel safe emotionally, feel seen and heard and cared for, not buy them maybe again, there's a love language, which we could spend a whole other topic on. You have to learn what your love language is. And for some people, it's words of affirmation. Other people, it's gifts. Other people, it's quality time. There's different ways of feeling it. So again, learn what your language is, teach the other person, vice versa. You cannot read minds. And let's say you were dating someone in the past, don't compare them. You can say to yourself, well, Tom liked it or John liked it, whatever it would be. Do not assume just because one guy does, the next one is. Ask them, learn about them. It's like I wrote an article on LinkedIn yesterday, I think it was, about when you go for a job, you're going to ask a lot of questions. When you're building a house, there's a lot of tools and structure you need. Relationships are the same way. You can't just go out and think, oh, yeah, I've got chemistry. Yeah, it's wonderful. Let's journey together. You go for a job interview, there might be 3 interviews. Then you have to figure out what it's like in the office. Is the compensation the same? There's just so much to it. And if you can equate that with a relationship, and a lot of times the marriage really begins 2 years after you're actually married. That may sound strange, but it's like it takes that long sometimes for people to settle in enough to actually be themselves. And not that they're hiding up until then, but there is a kind of a gestation period where it takes a couple of years. And then when you have that first feeling of like, what the hell am I doing? Or, oh my God, I shouldn't have done this. That's when it begins. And that's where the choices begin. And when you go to bed at night, say to yourself, I have chosen this partner. Thank you, God, or source, wherever it is. Wake up in the morning. Thank you for another day of life. Turn to her and just say, good morning. What can I do for you today? And if she's asking you the same thing, then you've got two people that have, got each other's back. That's one of the things. Steve and I, no matter where we are, he travels quite a bit for work. I was just in Arkansas. He's going to be traveling next week. Doesn't matter where we are, we've got each other's back. It doesn't matter if it's a different time zone, we've got each other's back. That is something we have built over 7 years, and it just keeps building naturally. And we have an honest, open communication, and it's priceless. But it's possible. Work. It takes work. It takes communication, and it takes knowing yourself. It starts with you. You've got to have a relationship with yourself first and foremost. And I'm talking about internally, not just how you look, what you wear, what you drive, where you live, what your occupation. That's all part of you. But to really know how you handle jealousy, how you handle conflict, what triggers you, what scares you about communication, all of that. Let's say you're scared of confronting your partner. You start off with, honey, I have like really not a whole lot of experience in confronting someone, but I really would love to confront you with this situation, and can you help me? It's like helping each other. You're either contaminating or contributing to the relationship? Think of that every time you open your mouth. Is what I'm doing supporting and getting me to where I want this relationship to be?
Wow, that's amazing side of the, like, getting back to each other and being that supportive despite the fact you're physically away or in a house. It's more of communication. I mean, I'm getting more closer as I'm more concentrating on emotional pattern, learning each other's emotional pattern, and communicating
Mhm.
effectively. That we do communicate, but the effectiveness is not there just because we do not have the feedback loop. So yeah,
Well, you
it's
have to
like I
ask
said,
them.
yeah,
So when you say something to your wife, take a moment and say to her, "What did you hear me say?" And let
yeah,
her recite back to you. And you'll say, "You know what? That's part of it, but this is the other part." And then when she responds, she needs to say, "What did you hear me say?" And chances are you might come back and say, "I heard you say," and she's like, "No, that's not what I said. This is what I said." And it might be a few weeks of that. "What did you hear me say? What did you hear me say?" And then after a while, it's like now you're learned one another's language. And it almost sounds like you're going back to school, but we never learned this at school. It was never an I wish it was, but it's not. It's not a class at school where you learn how to communicate effectively.
and one more thing, yeah, I like to just, I mean, get back to the comparison that we keep comparison with our ex, be it any, like, I mean, for spouses. We say this is natural. Is it natural? My first question. Secondly, how to cope up with this?
It is natural. It is natural to have someone to compare. It's like going on the same vacation with someone different. You are going to have memories. But a lot of times, if we're holding on to something from the past, one aspect of it, to me, it's like seeing a commercial of a movie. And I will remind the person that's holding on to one commercial that felt really good in that old relationship. I will remind them to play the whole movie, and the whole movie could have been, yeah, they weren't very respectful, and yeah, they didn't really hear me. But that part was really good. I try. So it's like you're holding on to one aspect, and then you're thinking that was the whole relationship. And you're really bullshitting yourself. And all that does is hold you back from being present with the person you're with today.
Thank you so much, Concepta.
My pleasure.
You're clearing out so many concepts. Thank you so much, Concepta. See you
My
again soon.
pleasure.
Bye bye.
Absolutely. Bye bye.